BFBS UK with fans.
Everybody needs a little time away, I heard her say, from each other. Even lovers need a holiday, far away from each other. It's hard for me to say I'm sorry. I just want you to stay. After all that we've been through, I will make it up to you. I promise to. And after all that's been said, you're just a part of me I can't let go. Couldn't stand to be kept away just for the day from your body. Wouldn't wanna be swept away, far away from the one that I love. Oh, now it's hard for me to say I'm sorry. I just want you to know. Hold me now, I really wanna tell you I'm sorry. I could never let you go. After all that we've been through, I will make it up to you. I promise to. And after all that's been said and done, you're just a part of me I can't let go. After all that we've been through, I will make it up to you. I promise to. You're gonna be the lucky one.
That's number one in America. And it's a hit over here as well. It's a nice record. It's by Chicago. It is called Oh, It's Hard to Say That I'm Sorry. This is the British Forces Broadcasting Service here, and this is the program called BFBS UK. And I trust you're in fine fettle, because I'm going to attempt to read letters. And after the little celebration we had last night for the return of the Invincible and all the splicing of the main brace, I might be stumbling over the words even more today. This one comes from a lady called Mrs. Betty Marsden. Hello, Betty Marsden. Care of Staff Sergeant Marsden in Bruggen. Dear Tom, would you please play a dedication to my husband on September the 22nd, which by George just happens to be today, for our 9th wedding anniversary. And will you please tell my husband, are you listening, Staff Sergeant Marsden? This is what Betty wants me to say. Will you please tell my husband that I hope the next 9 ain't like the last 9? Ha, ha, ha. Bet you don't mean it, Betty. It seems that we all met up at the RAOC Club. Betty and Staff Sergeant Marsden and myself in RAF Akrotiri. I do remember, actually, that event. We were something like 2 hours late, I think, because Johnny Walker decided he wanted to drive through I don't know, his woods. Driving was dreadful. But anyway, I do recollect that we were late. But I do remember being in the RAOC Club. And it was good. Don't remember leaving, of course, but it was good when I was there. Mr. Marsden, Staff Sergeant Marsden. The next 9.
I paid all my dues, so I picked up my shoes. I got up and walked away. Oh, I was just a boy. I didn't know how to play. Worked hard and failed. Now all I can say is I threw it all away. Oh, I was just a boy, giving it all away. Sail away, sail away. Ooh, well, I know better now. I know better now. Giving it all away. Ooh, well, I know better now. I know better now, giving it all away. Went out in the world, too much for my nerves, only myself to blame. Oh, I was just a boy, nobody else to blame. I've done all I can, now it's out of my hands. Stand on my head and say, oh, I was just a boy, giving it all away. Sail away, sail away. Well, I know better now. I know better now. Giving it all away. Ooh, well, I know better now. I know better now. Giving it all away. Ooh, yeah. I know better now. I know better now. Giving it all away. Ooh, yeah. I know better now. I know better now. Giving it all away. Just a boy, giving it all away. Just a boy, giving it all away. I was just a boy, giving it all away. Just a boy.
That was Roger Daltrey on a track called Giving It All Away. And it was specially for Mr. and Mrs. Marsden over there in Bruggen, who today are celebrating their 9th wedding anniversary. Good luck to both of you, and I hope you have a good time over there in Bruggen. You also say, Betty, in your letter, when are we going to come over there to Bruggen? Well, I don't know. We hope to be going to Germany sometime. One of these days. We probably will get on the old ferry. Cheap day return, something like that. It's the cuts, you know. So we hope to be getting to Germany soon. I'll tell you what we are going to do, though. We're going to go to Cyprus next month. Wonderful. I'm looking forward to it. I love Cyprus. Love the people. Always have a good time. We'll be there, I think, about the second week in October. recording a few programs, which you will actually hear all around the world. What we have been doing up to date, as many of you know, when we do go abroad with BFBS UK, we've been doing the programs just in that area. So, if we're in Cyprus, we do the programs for Cyprus. But we're going to change all that now. We're going to go to Cyprus and record some BFBS UKs, bring them back to London, and then ship them all over the world. So, I think that sort of conjoins everybody together better. Jill Moss is a young lady who lives at number 4 Woodburn Terrace, 1 St Andrews, Fife in Scotland. And she wrote to me at the BBC. Hence the fact that this letter should really have been read out on September the 7th. It got lost in the mail somewhere at the BBC and eventually found me over there, and I brought it over here, so it's a bit late. So I apologize. Anyway, Jill wrote thus: Dear Tom, could you please play Duran Duran's single Say a Prayer, or Save a Prayer rather, on your BFBS UK program on September the 7th for my dad, who is stationed out at HMS Rook in Gibraltar. Please also say a very special hello for my little sister, Catherine that is, who was 13 on the 7th of September. And she also says, does Jill, that I hope to be back in Gib with the family soon. I'm sorry that it's late. The letter went astray. But nonetheless, on that day, September 7th, Jill Moss was thinking about her dad and, of course, about Catherine.
Corner of a
Duran Duran, and the track called Save a Prayer. And it was specially for Catherine, and also for Mr. Moss, who's over there at HMS Rook in Gibraltar. From Jill Moss, who's at 4 Woodburn Terrace, 1 St Andrews. I think it's 1 St Andrews, or maybe just St Andrews, Fife in Scotland. Now, unfortunately, I don't know Mr. Moss's rank, so we'll call him Admiral. We'll say that was specially for Admiral Moss over there at HMS Rook in Gibraltar. And talking about the Navy, HMS Tamar, as you well know, is in Hong Kong. And I'd just like to say thank you very much indeed to CMEA A.J. Piper, better known as Pip Piper, whom I did a little discotheque with over there, worked with the Pied Piper discotheque. And he's a lovely fella, and he sent me a photograph of me at HMS Tamar. And boy, do I look as if I'm in a state.
Tommy Vance, BFBS UK.
BFBS UK. Now, the Orton family from Whitley Bay are the current holders of the title Fittest Family in the Country, a competition that was sponsored by various magazines and food promotion organizations that was launched in 1979. Now, they won the title that year and the following year. But unfortunately, the competition has lost its sponsor this year. So that still means that they hold the title, even though they haven't, I suppose, had to do the competition. There are 4 members of the Orton family. There's the father, he's Charles, Pat, the mum, Helen, age 16, and Lee, age 14. On the line at the moment from BBC Newcastle, I have Charles Orton, who is the father, therefore the governor of the family. Why did the whole thing fall apart this year, Charles? Why did they pull out?
Well, I'm not quite sure, actually. I think most of the firms are in the same position as everyone else. With the depression in the country, I think they cut back on the promotions of this competition.
Mm-hmm. Who were then the people who were involved in it initially?
Well, the people involved were a meat company,
Right.
chicken company, and 2 or 3 ladies' magazines.
Right, but I mean, can you give me any names at all? We're allowed to use names on this program, you see.
Well, it was Women's Magazine,
Right.
Slimmer, and the British Meat Board, and Chunky Chickens was the main ones.
Chunky Chickens.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Go down a storm in the Falklands, they do, I tell you. Right, now what did he actually have to do to win the competition?
Well, the competition was held over 2 days, and we went through a running competition, which was long distance, which was 1,000 metres and 2,000 metres for me, and we did relay swimming. We did exercises in the gym, which comprised of about 8 different exercises. We did shot put and long jump, high jump.
Well, it's basically a sort of decathlon with a couple that you haven't mentioned so far, isn't it?
Well, they did golf as well, you know. I think they covered about everything in sport.
Golf?
Yes.
Good heavens. What about shooting?
I didn't do any shooting.
You didn't do any of that?
No.
How do you go about preparing for so many different sports?
Well, in the case of our family, we all do judo, all 4 of us. I've done judo since I was about 14. And the first time we did the competition, we didn't do any real extra training, I mean. We just did training that we had already done for judo. Mm-hmm. But the second year, we prepared ourselves a lot better for it. And this year, actually, we were prepared completely this year for it. I think this year, if any year, we would have won it. If you were asking us if we would have won it the first year, I would have said, well, I don't know. But this year, we were prepared to win it.
But there ain't no competition.
But there ain't no competition.
But you still hold the title anyway.
Yeah, well.
I think it should be, said at the moment that you actually run your own judo and fitness club, don't you?
Yeah, we run a club at Whitley Bay, which we've been running for about 2 years now.
Right.
Yeah.
In the 1980 competition, I
Yes.
think you actually also had to write an essay on the ideal recipe for a fit family. Now, did you write any 80-shilling ale into that?
Well, I drink. I don't see there's any harm as long as you drink within moderation. The idea, I think, was to see if you had a good idea of a good diet, because if you're going to be fit and healthy, then obviously you've got to have a good diet. Mm-hmm. So that was the idea behind it, I think.
What was your idea then of a good diet? Chunky chicken, I guess.
Chicken, no, chicken is very good for you. You know, I mean, it's a lot better for you than most meats because if you take the skin off chicken, there's not much fat at all in the chicken.
True.
You know?
Sometimes not a lot of chicken either.
Sometimes, yeah.
But all right, so we got chicken. Would you want put salad with it, or would you serve up mashed potatoes?
Well, we eat an awful lot of salad. You know, all of us like salad. I don't know many people that don't like salad, but I think that if your diet consists of about 1/3 raw vegetables in your diet, then you've got a pretty good diet.
Right.
I eat anything, you know. Most of the family does. We don't have any special, you know, we don't eat, say we can't eat potatoes or you can't eat meat or...
I mean, do you eat things like steak and kidney pud?
Well, I don't like steak and kidney puddings much, you know, but I will eat them. I've got nothing against them.
You don't discriminate against steak and kidney pud?
No, my son won't eat anything else but steak and kidney pies, so...
So it's in the family?
It's in the family.
Is there ever a day when you actually take a day off from training? If you run a fitness club, then you're always actively involved. Is there ever a day when you suddenly go, today I'm going to put my feet up, to heck with it?
Well, it's not very often. We've just been on holiday for a month and we're still... I don't feel right unless we do something every day, you know. And that was before I had the club. I mean, I've got the club now, obviously we've got to train every day, but before we had the club, then we used to train every day anyway.
Do you think it's easy then for people who, very much like myself, who are desperately unfit and completely wrecked, do you think it's easy for us to go into a simple process of training to give ourselves a bit of an edge?
Yeah, well, if you're going to start training, then you've got to go to a club, I think, or you've got to take it very easy. The best thing to do is go to the doctor and ask him, you know, what kind of condition you're in, not just to jump into a tracksuit and go running for 10 miles.
Right.
You'll probably do yourself more harm than good. You've got to go to the doctor and just have a checkup and, you know, start gradually. I think the worst thing in this country is that we're poorly educated at school in the beginning for when we're 5 or 6. You know, they should have better facilities to train children at school to get them into a way of life where they're keeping fit from that age, because some of the children that's 6 or 7 are grossly overweight now, so it's only going to become worse, you know, as they get older.
Yeah, they don't stand much of a chance when they're 18 and 18 stone.
They don't, no. Especially when they're drinking 8 pints a day.
If they can afford it in this day and age, let's face it.
That's true, that's true.
Do you ever see the day, though, when you will ultimately knock it all on the head, or are you the type of man who at the age of 80 will still be happy to run a marathon?
Well, I hope so. You know, we've got one guy in the club that's 64 and he's been doing judo for 20 years. He still trains, he still runs about 10 miles a day. He runs whenever he can, he tells me, and he does about a mile swimming 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. And he's got no intentions of stopping yet. So I hope I'm the same.
I think he deserves a round of applause.
I think so.
And even though Chunky Chicken and everybody else has pulled out this year, you still are the head of the fittest family in Britain.
Well, so far, until we're proved different.
Absolutely. Take care, Charles, and good luck to you, and Helen, and Lee, and Pat as well.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tommy Vance, BFBS UK.
Haven't you heard what's new? There is a rumor going around that suddenly I found you. Better believe it's true. I got a feeling this is for real and nobody else will do. You are my princess. You make me smile. You make my life seem worthwhile. You are sweetest way. Oh, I was lonely, and now you're the only lover that I'll ever need. You are my princess. You make me smile. You make my life seem worthwhile. You are my princess, the only one. You make the sun shine on me. You are my lady. You're my princess. You're my princess. You're my princess. You're my princess. You are my princess. You make me smile. You make my life seem worthwhile. You are my princess, the only one. You make the sun shine on me. You are my lady. You're my princess. You're my princess. You're my princess. You're
Couldn't be anybody other than Elton John, could it? Really distinctive writer and a good singer. Great singer. That's his latest single, Mr. Elton John's latest single. It's called Princess. And I've got myself a little letter here. That's from Hamlin in Germany. Should actually have been read out on the 20th of September, but unfortunately it got lost in the mail. So, on here, the 22nd of September, we're going to attempt to stagger through it. Dear Tom, it says, could you please play a request on Monday the 20th of September, sorry, it's Wednesday now, for my old friends Annie and Clive Ledner. Hello, Annie and Clive Ledner, how are you? Would I please tell Annie that I'm sorry that I missed her wedding anniversary. Thank her for the mention she gave us on your program last week. It seems, in fact I know, that I play requests for her quite often. I've actually played requests for her, this is Annie, right, through her romance with Clive, her engagement and her marriage, and now she's expecting a baby. And I'd like you to play a record for them both, says Karen, and also Buzz Bullock, who are over there in Hamlin. Well, congratulations, Annie and Clive. You read the right instruction book, and I hope the little lump there is feeling quite good. And I wish you well. And I've chosen a lovely little song here. I think it's nice myself. It's by Cliff Richard. Have a listen.
What did I ever do for you that you should die for me? And what did I ever give to you that you should live in me? Now and forever and always true, your love has found a way as I was, I am, and always will be. Be in my heart, be in my head, be in my soul tonight. Live in my words, let it be said. Live in my life tonight. Pray that I never take in vain the name I hold most dear. His love in the very heart of me casts out all doubt and fear. Now and forever and always true, your love has found a way. As I was, I am, and always will be. Be in my heart, be in my head, be in my soul tonight. Live in my words, let it be said. Live in my life tonight. Tonight we shall sweetly sleep. Tonight by still waters deep. Tonight for my soul to keep. Still water, lead me to your still water. I need to drink of your still water.
And that was Cliff Richard, and it's a track from his latest album. The track was called Be In My Heart, and it was specially for Annie and Clive Ledner, with lots and lots of love from Karen and Buzz Bullock, who are in Hamelin in Germany. And it was also for the little Ledner, who as yet has not emerged on this little globe of ours, but when it does, I wish it well.
Ooh, so fine, so fine, blow my mind. Ooh, so fine, blow my mind.
So fine. On a Wednesday. Now, the next guest on BFBS UK is a man who's made a successful living out of the things that people say. His name is Nigel Rees. He's just published a book of gaffes, spelt Gaffes, which is called Foot in Mouth, something that I permanently live with. Before this, his latest offering, he had published such books as Graffiti Lives OK, plus 3 follow-ups to that, and so far he's sold 1.5 million books. That's a lot of books, Nigel.
Yes, Thomas, I hope you've bought them all.
I've bought every single one of them.
You have?
I have.
You sure?
Foot in Mouth is a lovely title, and it really does...
Not foot and mouth. We have to make this very clear. Foot in mouth is when you open your mouth and you put your foot in it. You make a verbal slip. And I don't think there's ever been a book quite like this before. There have been books of dropped bricks, social gaffes, but there's never been one which brought together the various types, like malapropisms, which is when you choose the wrong word, or spoonerisms, when you get the beginning of the words the wrong way around, and newspaper misprints, and above all, and this will particularly interest you, Thomas, radio boobs.
Yes, indeed. Talking about radio boobs, I mean, I've actually got it open at the page here.
Page 60, very good.
Page, yes. Indeed, page 60. It says, this is the British Broadcasting Castration.
Well, yes, I find that whenever I have to type British Broadcasting Corporation, I always do that. And there are some things which occur when you speak. Somehow, the brain moves faster than the mouth, in the same way as if you're typing, the brain moves faster than your fingers on the typewriter keyboard. So you get some wonderful things which come out of radio, which I savour and which I thought it was worth writing down. There was a famous one, an American radio announcer called Harry Von Zell, who later appeared in the Burns and Allen show. He's dead now. But the famous occasion back in when Herbert Hoover was the president of the United States, and Harry Von Zell was introducing a big broadcast across the country and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the president of the United States, Hubert Hoover." Now, that is a spoonerism when you get the bits of the words the wrong way around. But, I mean, I don't know whether you do them, Thomas, at all, but...
2 hours a day, mate.
2 hours a day. Well, I was driving around Ireland at about 5 or 6 years ago, listening to RTE, wonderful, wonderful radio station, and there was this wonderful Irish radio announcer, and this is true, I'm not making this up. He said, "I'm going to play a record now for Jack O'Sullivan, or whatever the name was, who was 111 recently. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, no, he was ill recently. You see, he's misread it. And do you remember a DJ, I'm sure you do, called Johnny Walker, who went off to America? He was rather a good DJ.
Who actually has just joined Radio West in Bristol.
Has he? He's come back.
Week.
He's coming back.
Yeah.
Anyway, very good DJ. I'm not knocking him, but on one occasion I heard with my own ears, he was reading out a request, and he said, and now the next request is for so-and-so who lives in Berry Street, Edmonds, Suffolk. No, I don't, I'm not putting these into a book to knock the people, because I'm a broadcaster myself, but I do the same sort of thing. But there's a certain type of verbal gaff which I think is almost inspired, and it's those that I've gone for.
There's a lovely one here. It says, as a result of the strike by Aer Lingus staff, anyone wishing to fly to Birmingham will have to go by boat.
Well, you see, I think a lot of people, particularly people who read the news, they don't always... They just read it, it doesn't actually pass through their brain, and they haven't written it themselves. So some terrible gaffes come out. Again, something I heard on BBC Radio 4, very serious, very distinguished Radio 4 announcer saying that there had been some drowning, and the police had been unable to revive the body despite giving it the kiss of death. And he blithely went on, just terrible things like that, toe-curling embarrassment. I think they're wonderful.
I was talking actually to a newscaster, a BBC newscaster the other day, last Saturday, in fact, a guy called James Alexander Gordon.
Oh, yes.
A Scots fella, lovely man. And he was up there reading the news for Radio 2, and he had 2 pages of news. So he's sitting there in front of the microphone, and he's on page 1. All of a sudden, as he's reading page 1, somebody comes in through the door, takes away page 2, and he's stuck with page 1, and he's halfway down it. So he has to slow down, waiting all the time for this guy to come back with the retyped page 2. And he has found that he was going slower and slower and slower, and in the end, page 2 never arrived. So he had to close down the news early.
Well, I think the thing is that it's the marvellous thing about live radio is that these mistakes occur, and it keeps us all on our toes. The same thing usually happens in newspapers because of the speed with which it all has to be done. And these little things linger, like newspaper misprints, which I've included quite a lot of in the book. Just by the movement or the mistaken putting in of one letter, you can change the whole sense of something. For example, I think this was about a Notting Hill riot a few years ago. Instead of scuffles broke out in the crowd, you get souffles broke out in the crowd. You get this wonderful picture. So, I think that's what I call an inspired gaff, which is the sort of thing that I'm after.
You did a program for Radio 4 called Quote Unquote, which became very, very successful.
Well, I hope you're not putting it in the past tense, because it's still going strong. And
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh, yes. No,
I don't listen to Radio 4 a lot, I've got to be honest.
Well, it was shortly our BBC World Series. They're repeating a series of it. No, we're into our 7th series now, done about 100 programmes, and it's out of that thing, which was just a quiz about quotations, that all these books have grown, because we started including sort of stuff that people sent in to us, like graffiti and foot in mouth and eavesdroppings, overheard remarks, and the books have all spun off from that.
It's a wonderful thing to come up with an idea that inspires other people to contribute.
Well, I suppose it is. I rather resent it when people say, oh, God, you get everybody else to do your work for you. Well, in a sense, yes, you use other people's jokes and all the rest of it. But it also involves quite a bit of work, harvesting the material and getting it together.
Oh, it's like if you watch, say, the 2 Ronnies on television, and you sit there for the 45 minutes or whatever the duration of the program is, and you laugh like a drain, like a maniac, for that length of time. Yeah. And then you look at the number of writers who are involved.
Yeah. And also, I mean, with the quotations and with some of the things in this foot-in-mouth book, you do have to do a lot of research, which I tend to do myself because I rather enjoy it. But I also got a couple of more serious books, which, involved mountains of work. One was called Very Interesting But Stupid, which was about a sort of dictionary of catchphrases from entertainment. And I got a book coming out later in this year, a hardback book called Slogans, which is all about the great advertising and political slogans. And that, took an enormous amount of research. So, whereas, say, the graffiti books are fairly easy to compile because the material just arrives through the letterbox. The other books do involve a lot of work on
What's your favourite piece of graffiti?
well, I couldn't tell it.
Right.
But I'll give you one clean piece, which Graffiti 4 is coming out in October. And this is included in that. If your nose runs and your feet smell, you must be upside down. It's silly, that.
Gets the imagination going.
Yeah. Incidentally, Thomas, I've just come back from holiday in Cyprus, where I heard you every day.
Must have driven you crazy.
Well, you can't get away from it on Cyprus, you know.
Yeah,
You come out of every loudspeaker in the hotel when I arrived. You're coming out of the loudspeaker.
I'm locked
So if
in.
you're sitting in that hotel foyer, I've come back.
Which hotel do you stay in?
I stayed at two. One up in Platras, up in the mountains, which is absolutely super, the forest park, and one down in Paphos. Yeah.
It's a nice island, actually.
Yeah, very nice indeed. I've got a bit of a tan. It'll soon be falling off. The funny thing was that I got back to London last week. It was almost as hot in London as it was in Cyprus.
That's true. In fact, it was said on the BBC the other day that it was warmer here than it was in Cyprus, in actual fact. We're having an Indian summer, I think.
That's the word. Yes.
That's the word. Brian Johnson of Test Match fame is well known for his gaffes, isn't he?
Yes. Some of them, again, fairly unrepeatable in polite company, which I presume this programme is directed at.
What a presumption.
I think it's the business of, when you're commentating on something, you think in a line. I mean, you're literally describing what is going on in front of your face and talking in a line. And therefore you tend to say mad things. He says them quite a lot. Max Robertson, tennis commentator, and one of the famous broadcasting exponents of the art of putting your foot in your mouth is Jack DeManio, who for many years introduced the Today programme on the radio. He was famous for it. I used to produce that programme many years ago, and we used to sit in the control cubicle, rather like your colleagues here, and, what is he going to say next? And his most famous one, which I thought one just had to include in the book, was when he was a BBC announcer in the days before, it got all terribly, before it got all informal.
Right.
And he was about to introduce a talk about Nigeria, the land of the Niger. And he said, now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a talk on the land of the nigger. Terrible. And
imagine all the people on the fourth floor of the BBC broadcasting house all blanching.
Yeah. Well, do you remember those old cartoons by a cartoonist called Bateman, the man who mentioned so-and-so in the officer's mess, and all these pictures of colonels sort of jumping up in the air and monocles popping out of their eyes. I imagine that sort of thing happened to the BBC. But it was, funnily enough, the making of Jack DeManio, because from being a not terribly good announcer, they sort of shuffled him sideways as a result of these terrible gaffes that he made.